Okay, well, like I said, I have to talk about TYT because what they're doing is despicable. This first video that I'm going over, in this long video of mine, it's going to seem really petty, but later on you'll see exactly what the point is. Because what I have to do is I have to talk about this whole Easter worshiper scenario, and I'm going to have to talk about how TYT, the original video on the bombings, because it's different from how they would have done Muslims if they were Christians killing Muslims, like with New Zealand.
There have been as many as 8 separate bomb attacks at churches and luxury hotels in Sri Lanka. Most of these attacks were targeted in the capital city of Colombo. And so far, an estimated 290 people have been killed and an additional 500 people have been reported as injured. Now, the story is still developing.
She says that a lot throughout the whole thing. It's Gio constantly says the story's still developing. Something that she doesn't really go into when it was a Muslim thing. And she just sounds so disinterested in this, as if Anna sounds so disinterested. It's like she's just reading because she has to. If this was like the New Zealand shooting, she would have already talked about white males killing Muslims. It would have been in the title, hundreds of Muslims killed by white nationalists. So far, she said nothing except people were killed by bombings. Now, again, this sounds pretty petty, because if you've never seen TYT before, this video seems pretty good so far. But again, if you've seen them before and you compare how they do other stuff, there is a clear discrepancy. A clear discrepancy. If this was a white nationalist killing Muslims, they would have had it not only in the title, which you see this, nothing in the title. You would have seen it in the title. They would have talked about, like, what are they? 25 seconds in, they would have already said the words Muslim victims and white nationalist terrorist.
Are a number of reports coming out indicating that the government had been warned that there could be attacks like this on Easter Sunday, but it's unclear as to why those warnings went unanswered or no one did anything about them. I'll give you the details into that in just a
Unclear. If this was a warning that Muslims or any other group, any of your protected group, would get attacked and nothing was done, you wouldn't be talking about how it's unclear. You'd be talking about how this is a clear example of the government being systematic racism or systematic Islamophobia or something like that. It would have been, you would have used that as a clear example about how the government wanted that group dead. But since they are Christians, it's all of a sudden unclear. Like I said, it seems petty about what they're doing right now because it seems like they're doing fair reporting. But just if you compare this to how they do their other videos, compare this to how they did in New Zealand, there was just a clear discrepancy. They were already attacking Trump and people for not calling it a terrorist whenever they were calling it a terrorist. They were calling this man a terrorist, and then they were blaming this on Trump already. There's just a clear discrepancy.
Second, but among the dead were 4 Americans, and that's according to a spokesman for the State Department, with several others seriously injured. So there were certainly some tourists there, again, traveling. It was Easter Sunday when these attacks happened. Now, Sri Lanka officials said 39 of the victims were foreign tourists and another 28 were wounded. Now, to give you some details into the warnings that were given to officials prior to these attacks, intelligence services in India and the U.S. told Sri Lanka of the threat in early April. One memo compiled by Sri Lankan security officials was so specific that it even gave a list of suspects. In the run-up to the holiest day in the Christian calendar, the warnings seemed to increase in frequency and urgency. Now, there have been some political divides in Sri Lanka. There was apparently a constitutional crisis happening in the country, and as a result, the prime minister was kept out of security briefings. That was one of the explanations that was given. Again, the story is developing.
We get it, okay? But if this was a white nationalist killing Muslims, you would be yelling bullcrap right now. Okay? If this was against any other group, you'd be yelling bullcrap. You're saying, no, you are biased and disinterested and only talking about this because you have to. You can hear you really don't want to talk about this. You would already be blaming Trump for his words condemning radical Islam and illegal aliens. Can we blame you for attacking and demonizing Christians? No, because that would be wrong, and we don't do that. You do it to people you don't like, and if this was such a big story, if this wasn't such a big story, you would be avoiding it altogether. Just like all the other Christian killings that go unnoticed. Again, I really would not be talking about this, even with how the clear discrepancy between this and your New Zealand videos. I really would not be talking about this if it wasn't for TYT's very next video. Well, not the very next, but the next one I'm going to get into.
Things could change as the story continues to develop, but that's what we're hearing as of now. Now, when suicide bombers walked into 3 churches around Sri Lanka, the 3 upscale hotels in Colombo, none of them actually faced enhanced security.
See, she's so disinterested in this that she's already messing up words. That's how disinterested she is in this story. She doesn't really care about Christians.
And they should have, considering all of the warnings that people have been given or the government had been.
There is a little bit of emotion. They should have, considering all the warnings. Then it goes back to disinterested.
Given prior to these attacks happening. And by the way, the first warning was given on April 4th, just to give you an idea of how much time the government had to prepare and provide enhanced security before these attacks happened. Now, again, preliminary reports indicate that the attacks were done by Muslim extremists.
Why did you say again? Because this is the first time you said it. It took you 2 minutes and 38 seconds to even bring up that it was done by Muslim extremists. And if this was a white nationalist doing something, it would have been in the title. You would have said Muslim nationalist, white nationalist, like, multiple times. Okay? Yes, these were done by Muslim extremists. And it's actually more like normal Muslims. They're not as... Well, they are extremists, but they aren't as rare as you would like to claim. And attacks on Christians isn't as rare as you like to claim. And you could just tell how painful it was for her to admit that it was a Muslim attack. The tone at the end, almost questioning it, is almost like you were hoping that it would come out wrong because of how you are so anti-Christian. You're the left hates Christians. And later on you will see that.
And that is strange in a country where both Muslims and Christians are the minority. Sri Lanka.
No. It isn't strange for Muslim extremists to do extremist things. In fact, Muslim extremists do the extremist things mostly in where they are minorities. And they attack Christians no matter where they are. Muslim extremists hate Christians. They hate Christians, they hate Jews. They hate Christians and Jews the most. But they hate anyone that doesn't bow to their religion. Okay? This isn't strange at all. Except to people like you who like to turn the other way when Muslims do stuff that is wrong. So if you would attack non-stop if Christians did it. But because it's a Muslim, and it's the only reason why you're reporting this is because it was such a big attack. That's the only reason.
Lanka's majority is Buddhist and Hindu. So this is strange because most of the tension has been between the Buddhists and Hindus in Sri Lanka.
I'm sorry, it's not strange for Muslim extremists to do extremist things, especially when they are the minority. And it's not strange for them to attack Christians, no matter what, because they hate Christians.
Yeah, so if you're not used to Sri Lankan politics...
Yeah, Cenk is stuttering, trying to take the topics out of it. The growing hate of Christians, the growing tolerance of Muslim extremism, trying to spin it against Christians, which is what they end up doing. They end up spinning it against Christians. Like I said, these are extremely anti-Christian. These are anti-Christian.
No one blames you. That's why we want to give you context. Over 100,000 people died in their 26-year civil war. And the civil war was between the Buddhist majority and the Tamil Tigers. But the Tamils are an interesting combination of Hindus, Muslims, and Christians. So the Muslims and the Christians were on the same side. And they were united against the Buddhists, who are the majority in Sri Lanka. Mm-hmm. And there actually is a long history of...
Okay, so what? They were allies, Christians and Muslims. That doesn't make it any less strange. Okay, the U.S. was united with the USSR at one point, the United States of Soviet Russia. Doesn't mean that we still didn't hate each other, and it doesn't mean that we went to trying to kill each other right afterwards. This isn't strange at all. This is normal.
Suicide bombing in Sri Lanka done by the Tamil Tigers. Now, but most of those were not Muslims. They were and predominantly united by their ethnic bond of being Tamil, as opposed to their religious bond of being Christian, Muslim, or Hindu.
Most were Muslim. Didn't you say that they were a minority? So it would make sense that most of the bombings weren't Muslim, right? And in the bond of the group, well, I'm pretty sure a large, disproportionate, maybe even the majority were still Muslims. Like, sure, they were claiming it to being a bond to their group, but I'm pretty sure the majority of the bombings were done by Muslims. Okay.
So now the reason why there might be bombings by Muslims in this country at this point is because the Buddhists extremists have been doing agitation online against Muslims, and that has led to some rioting and lynching of Muslims in Sri Lanka.
Here we fucking go. Here you are justifying this attack. And you attack anyone who tried to talk about how illegal immigration was a problem. And here you go fucking go justifying the attack. Why? Because they were bullied and attacked? No, because they were part of your protector group. Okay? Why don't you ever put that logic on other shit? Why don't you think that the left is getting attacked because they constantly attack whites, males, and Christians? Why do you think that there's so much pushback by whites, males, and Christians? Because of your attacking them. Right? You are hypocrites. You only care about power and not the truth, justice, freedom, or America. You hate us. You hate Christians. You hate whites. You hate males. You hate conservatives. You hate anyone who you disagree with. Okay? Because, again, you never, ever use that logic to justify anything whenever a right-wing person... This is something I try to say. How many times have I said extremism breeds extremism? Okay? I say that quite a bit. And here's just another case of it. Okay? Extremism breeding extremism. It doesn't make sense that they're attacking Christians at all, but you know what? It's just another case of extremism breeding extremism. That's something I've said for a long time. It's still wrong. Yes, it's still wrong to retaliate with murder and attacks like this. But again, extremism breeds extremism. You don't want to admit that, though.
But the part that is really strange, as Anna points out, is if they were doing a strike back against the Muslim lynchings, why didn't they hit Buddhists? Why did they hit Christians? So there's something off in that part of the story.
Right.
But the government right now appears to be relatively sure that it's a terrorist attack.
Yes.
All right. Here you go. Maybe they aren't really doing that because they aren't really doing that. They may not be doing it as a retaliation to all the lynching. Okay? Your own justification for it failed. You fucked yourself up. Now how will you fix this? Now how will you pin this against Christians? Because, well, it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. I mean, but they are extremists. Sometimes they do stuff that don't make sense. They get attacked, so they just retaliate and attack everyone that they hate. And that includes Christians. Muslims hate Christians to high heaven. You have no idea how much they hate Christians. You don't, because you ignore stuff. Like they will attack these Muslim extremists. They will attack Christians even with a slight reason. And again, there's evidence that they were helped with by outside countries. So again, it might not be retaliation of the lynchings, and if it is, the lynchings of Muslims may have been used to, well, help bring these Muslims to the extremists and have them attack everyone.
It's obvious, right? And relatively certain that it's a Muslim extremist group.
And the reports indicate that it was well planned, it was sophisticated, and well orchestrated. And so there is some concern that there was international support for these attacks. And so again, this is a developing story and it's being investigated.
Hang on, I didn't think it would break you telling this truth. Like, every other word was It kind of broke you telling the truth. You had to scrunch out to get enforced words out. It hurts to tell the truth. This is something you can't lie about, at least not very well.
But this is what we are hearing as of now. Now, let me.
I just want to clarify one quick thing, Anna. When we say strange, I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. I have no reason to disbelieve the official response to this.
I know what you mean by strange. I know what you mean by strange. You have no reason to believe the official response. I know what you mean by strange is it doesn't make sense for them to do it. And the only reason why you say that is because you really don't understand Muslim extremists. You like to turn the other way whenever Christians get persecuted. This one was just so up in your face you couldn't ignore it. Okay? The video I made before this, the one lady brought up how there were 23,000 Christians killed over the course of, like, what the last few years. I don't remember how far back, but it was a lot of people killed over a short period of time for their faith.
Some extremist group. I do believe that. What we're saying is, why did they attack Christians? That's the part that seems a little inexplicable.
Why did they attack Christians? Well, their faith. These Muslim extremists, okay, not all Muslims, I understand, not all Muslims. There are peaceful Muslims out there, but the Muslim extremists, these terrorists, their faith is what made them do this. They hate everyone. I know it's not just Christians. It really isn't just Christians. It's anyone. Okay? But they do hate Christians and Jews a lot more. They hate everyone and all those who don't bow. They believe that if you don't bow to their God, that if you don't bow to Allah, you should be killed. And those who believe in another God, they don't believe they're innocent. They really don't. If you believe in another God, they see you as not innocent. If you're not innocent, they can do whatever they want to you. And they kind of believe they can get away with this. They believe they can be protected. They hear all the hate Christians get. They hear about how evil groups like you make Christians out to be. The reasoning is obvious. This isn't some puzzle. Alright? If it's, again, any other shooting, you can come to an easy conclusion. Okay? No matter how wrong it is, or even how right it is. If it's something that fits your narrative, you can come to that conclusion very, very easily. But then when something happens that doesn't fit your narrative, all of a sudden, you don't understand it. That's because you don't understand how the world really works. You're in your own bubble.
But it might be because maybe it was outside groups that were helping them.
Right.
And those outside groups might say, hey, look, it'll get more attention if you attack Christians, especially on Easter Sunday, and that'll get the West more agitated, etc. And that might be a possible explanation.
So let me give you some specific details about warnings that were given. As I mentioned, on April 4th, foreign international intelligence agencies told Sri Lankan officials of a potential plot to launch suicide attacks against Christian churches and tourist spots. 5 days later, the country's defense ministry informed the Inspector General of Police of this alleged plot and named a group believed to be behind the plan. It's known as the nation's TYT Hates. The memo also includes a list of suspects. So there were actual specific suspects listed in that memo. On April 11th, another memo signed by the Deputy Inspector General of Police was circulated widely to a range of security services and some government ministries. That memo, a copy of which was seen by CNN, laid out the threat and again contained a list of suspects. So again, there were specific warnings. It's just unclear why nothing was done, why there wasn't enhanced security as a result of those warnings.
You want to be saying this was unclear if it was against any other group. You really want it. You would jump to a huge conclusion about how this was the government being anti-Muslim. You would.
Yeah. Look, that's also strange, obviously strange, but it could be a very simple Occam's razor explanation, which is incompetence.
All right. I do believe the answer is incompetence. I do believe the answer is that simple. But again, as y'all, if this was against any other group, you will not say that. You would say it was obviously not a simple answer. You would say it's a simple answer, and you would say that the reasoning that you would give, that TYT would give, would be that they wanted that group hurt. This is just y'all being hypocrites, okay? It's really nothing wrong with the reporting. It's just how clearly biased and how clearly different it is that y'all are reporting based on it being Christian versus if it was a Muslim. I mean, I would not be talking about this if it wasn't for your next video I'm going to go over, which will be the last video I do because I got a few other videos to set it up. Man, here's why I need to do those other videos is I don't have a lot of equipment, I don't have a lot of time, so I can't do these hour-long videos and put stuff in. I'm just going to do what I can. I'm going to talk about it, but with these hour-long videos, I really can't do too much. I don't have the time, the resources. I just can't. It's not even my job. If I start making money on this, I'll put money into it and I'll do better work. But until then, this is the best I can do.
And that happens all across the world. And, and we'll get to it. And then, of course, they get to it far too late. And if you got warnings that they're going to attack Christian churches, Easter would have been a logical time to make sure you had beefed up security, or maybe went and looked after the list of suspects that America gave you, India gave you. These are people trying to help you in this case, right?
Exactly. It's a devastating story. And again, this was a series of suicide bombings. So far, we know of 8, and there's some concerns that there could be additional attacks. So right now, especially in Colombo, there's people on edge, everyone's nervous, and we'll update you on this story as we have more information.
Yeah, and last thing I'll say on it is obvious, but it needs repeating every time. Stop letting people divide you based on religion and race and ethnic divisions left over from hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago. For God's sake, literally, right? So, and it happens all across the world. And in this case, in Sri Lanka, it has happened across all the religions and some ethnicities. So the Buddhists hating the Hindus striking back at the Buddhists then strike back at the Christians and the Muslims. Now the Muslims striking at the Christians, and on it goes. Or maybe, just maybe, we're all human beings.
Right.
And stop listening to your leaders who have a different agenda, who gain power from that division.
Okay, so you're talking about unity. You go straight to attacking Trump and Christians and whites any chance you get. Like if a white man, if they do something, if a white man kills a Muslim, all of a sudden you're attacking Trump, you're attacking Christians, you're attacking whites, you're doing division. If a black man gets arrested for any reason, even if it's justified, even if he's in the wrong, y'all are dividing, y'all are anti-white, anti-cop. You're dividing, okay? Now, the New Zealand shooting, you were dividing, attacking Trump, attacking Christians, even though he wasn't a Christian, attacking conservatives, pushing a political agenda for immigration. It was horrible. But then all of a sudden, because it's a Muslim that does it, it's suddenly it's someone in your protected group. Suddenly, we need unity, and you know what? You heard it from Cenk himself. Don't listen to Cenk, TYT, or any other left wing organization. Okay, don't listen to them. Don't listen to people trying to divide and get power from division. That's Democrats. They get power from our division. That's all they do. Okay?
Who gained power from that.
Now, on to the next.
Easter worshippers?
The huge talking point that this turned into. Okay, I hate that it turned into a huge talking point, but it is relevant that we need to talk about. It is something that TYT tries to avoid talking about because they don't want to address it. They didn't even address it. They tried to condemn people who were addressing it. This is just how stupid TYT is. Like, I'm going to set it up so you can see it, and then you can understand how this next video is just TYT shooting themselves in the foot. TYT is making these people look bad, and TYT is forcefully just TYT doing what they normally do. Take things out of context, not really address what people are saying, not really, look, they're not going to address what people are saying. They're not going to address what the actual argument is. They're going to make up an argument that they can easily counter, and then fight that argument, even though it's not the argument that people are saying. And honestly, this one, I mostly want to show the tweets. Okay? This is mostly the tweets, but there is more to talk about.
And I know that word apparently seems to be hard for some individuals to get out of their mouths. Easter worshippers. Apparently, that's how that works, because you can substitute Christians for Easter worshippers. And these two dingleberries, like just Tweedledee and Tweedledum, Obama and Hillary, these fools say Easter worshippers.
Okay. The attacks on tourists and Easter worshippers on Sri Lanka are an attack on humanity. On a day devoted to love, redemption, and renewal, we pray for the victims and stand with the people of Sri Lanka. Okay? There doesn't really seem anything wrong, except, well, he avoids using the word Christian, which honestly, if he was the only one who did it, it would have been okay. It's like an odd phrasing, but you know what? Okay, but it's like you'll see.
I don't know what's going on. Is it possible that the word Christian, just Tweedledee and Tweedledum, Obama and Hillary, these fools say Easter worshippers? I don't.
Okay. On this holy weekend for many faiths, really? No, this was an attack on Christians. Come on, they don't want to say this was an attack on Christians, so she's many faiths. Oh, we must stand united against hatred and violence. Okay, that's correct. I'm praying for everyone affected by today's horrific attacks on Easter worshippers and travelers in Sri Lanka. See, again, it seems like they're just avoiding the word Christian. And again, well, there's nothing wrong with it. Really, there already doesn't seem. It's just odd choice for Easter worshippers. I mean, it really is odd. Most people would say Christians.
What's going on?
But there's a reason why people don't like Easter worshippers, other than why not just say Christians? Like, what's the point? Why not just say Christians?
Is it possible that the word Christian may burn them? I don't understand. Now, this comes as no surprise, because it's very interesting to see how other Democrats phrase their remorse for such attacks. And if you look at certain presidential candidates who are running right now, for example, if you look at Kamala Harris, if you juxtapose her reaction from New Zealand, where she talks about the Muslims worldwide shouldn't have to.
Here's the juxtapose. someone else I think compares Hillary's New Zealand. I don't know if I got the video on this, but you know what? Here's a Kamala Harris, just to give an idea on why people are outraged by this. Attack on Muslims. You hear this? My heart is heavy with grief for New Zealand and Muslims worldwide affected by the tragic murderers in Christchurch. The massacre of those in a house of worship and prayer is evil and cowardly. Evil and cowardly. We stand with our friends around the world to condemn hate and speak out against intolerance.
Fear and condemning hate and intolerance. And if you juxtapose her reaction to that with the Sri Lanka Christian attack, it's very interesting. It's very night and day because there is no condemnation of hate or intolerance.
Here, completely different. This is what people are talking about. It's not just Easter worshippers. It's the whole idea that Christians are treated different. Compared to this, what she said, Easter is a reminder that there is hope and rebirth even in darkest times. Again, I guess not too bad. We must remember that today more than ever. Yeah, I am horrified by the attacks in Sri Lanka, where so many families were celebrating such a joyous day, praying for the victims and their loved ones. Nothing really that bad, but you can tell there's a difference. She emphasized Muslims were the victims, right? This one, the word Christian isn't even mentioned. She talked about condemning the hate. And this one, she doesn't say anything about it. It's just praying for victims and loved ones. It's like just a robotic response because you have to, compared to the other one where she was actively condemning all the hate, Islam, everything. And she emphasized how Muslims were the victims. Muslims worldwide. But here, yeah.
None of that, that's swept aside. No mention of the Christian community. No mention of that whatsoever. It's just like, well.
You see, that's the problem. That's the thing that they don't want to address. It's the whole point is how Christians are treated differently. About how this would have been, you compare it to how they treat Muslim attacks on Muslims. It's clear, there's clearly a difference.
This is just Easter. That's all it is. Just like, well, what do you think Easter celebrates though? What, like, it's not bunny rabbits, pimping. I don't know. I don't know what you think it is, but okay, let's move forward. We then analyze. Well, we won't say analyze. We'll look at because we don't want to go too deep into well, he put a period there and put a period there. We'll look at Bernie Sanders. He says no one should have to fear for their lives.
Okay. Again, another example. There's Bernie Sanders. Our thoughts are with the victims of the horrific attacks in Christchurch, New Zealand. No one should have to fear for their life because of their religion. No one should have to fear for their life because of their religion. We must come together to condemn all forms of hate, violence, to build a future of respect and understanding.
Because of their religion, goes on to condemn hate and intolerance, yada yada. Juxtapose that with the Sri Lanka response, and it's subtle, but it's there. He says no one should have to fear.
Our hearts go out to the victims and families on the horrific attacks in Sri Lanka. No person should have to fear for their life in their place of worship. We must work to bring this world together around our common humanity. This one is, Bernie Sanders was better on this, because when you compare his older tweet, it's like that, but there's still a difference. He was condemning hate. He was talking about their faith, like fear for their faith. And then here, he's just talking about no one should have to fear for their life in their place of worship. I mean, that is true. And then no condemnation of hate. Like, it's subtle, it's a little, but there is a difference, and that's what people don't like. They don't like that they're treated less. Their attacks mean less. It feels like their attacks mean less to Democrats than, well, Muslims, whenever they should be practically equal. And this was a much bigger attack with many more deaths and many more injuries. More people were affected. And this was not just one person. This was an organized group. And they're treating it like it was less than they treated New Zealand.
Fear in their
Remember, the New Zealand shooting, the whole world was all stood up against it. Like, there was immediate action. And in here, it just seems like empty words.
place of worship. I would argue the emphasis is placed on.
I may, if I had the time, I may find one of TYT's New Zealand videos just so I can show exactly how different it is, because it really is night and day different, like you explained.
The place of worship, whereas opposed to the New Zealand incident, it was placed on religion. Religion there, if you compound that with the intolerance and the hate that they condemn, well, they're talking about Islam. This is talking about a building structure. It wasn't an attack on a building structure. What the building was a church. What do you think a church is emblematic of? Who do you think were in those pews? Huh? Well, you could say maybe you're just reading too much into it. You can say that, but I guarantee they choose their words very carefully.
They do.
So why wouldn't I read into that? No one should have to fear in their place of worship. That could be anywhere, right? That could be here in my home. That could be in a mosque, a temple. What do you mean, a place of worship? So to me, it's very interesting how they choose their words. Place of worship, fear of their religion, condemn hate and intolerance. You know what they always constantly talking about? Islamophobia. Here's the thing. I don't think anyone should be shocked by any of this. You should not be shocked by any of the responses from the media or from Democrats, because it was clear, it's crystal clear how they were going to respond, given what we had just come off of. We had just gotten off of the scandal with Ilhan Omar talking about some people did something, and we saw how.
Yeah, I did a long video on it. I did a long video on TYT defending it and then going back and doubling down. They're that stupid. They double down on shit, and they honestly are stupid. And people who defend this kind of stuff, I guess they're not much better.
It wasn't criticism of what she said. It was defense of what she said. Well, they're just taking it out of context, and this is horrible, and blah, blah, blah.
I remember putting it in, it wasn't taken out of context, and honestly putting it in context is even worse. The 9/11 comments.
Defended her. Let me run that back to you again. They defended her for the asinine words that came out of her mouth. Some people did something. That should tell you where we are. That should tell you who the favorite child is in the class.
Okay, and I did a whole video on that already. Y'all can go look it up if you want. I don't know. Y'all want to ask for that video? I can either comment down below. I'll send y'all the link.
That should just give you signs as, oh, okay, now I understand. They can do no wrong. That's how it looks like to me. You can say whatever you like, but given the media response, and I'm hearing some people talking about, well, this is retaliation for what happened in Christchurch.
Sir, Lincoln bombings were retaliation for Christchurch shooting, defense minister says. Already justifying the attacks, already blaming the victims. Come on, aren't the left all about against victim blaming? Isn't that their whole thing? Here we go, an article blaming the victims, flat out. Not what Republicans do. Like, they are flat out blaming the victims here.
What? What? Are you putting the blame? Isn't that? I forgot what they call it. Don't they call it? What's the word that they love using? Victim blaming. Isn't that what they love saying? But I have to admit, the most comical headline I read was one where they said Muslims are in fear of retribution.
Muslims in Sri Lanka fear retribution following attacks for Christian churches. They're defending Muslims. They're basically saying, and Muslims are probably going to be victims. Just like 9/11 comments where Ilhan Omar claimed that Muslims were the victims of 9/11. They're already claiming that Muslims are going to be victims for this attack. Not the people that were killed. Muslims, because there might be some retribution or retaliation. Article talking about how they retaliated, and now they're in fear of retaliation. Really? I mean, Christians aren't going to retaliate. They don't really do that as much as Muslims do. What, they attack terrorists. That's, you don't hear as much Christians extremists killing Muslims. You hear more Muslim extremists killing Christians, or you choose to ignore it.
Retribution due to the Christian attacks. Retribution? You mean retaliation from who? Christians? Yeah. You're right, because that's how that works. So we have to those radical Christians. Those are the ones that we have to worry about. Okay. Just taking everything at face value, this is where the country is currently. Because you all remember what happened in the attacks in Nigeria with Christians and how that was sanitized and watered down. So, I mean, it seems like there's one group that everyone's, doing this to. Anyways, guys, that's the video. Let me know what you guys think. Whether or not you believe...
Really? That's the
fact that Christians are targeted so often and on such
this is
wide, the fact that
this is another really because still recording. This is another really good video that explains more about the outrage, and something that these were 2 short videos that I just found just by looking it up. TYT is going to act like they don't know what it is. They don't know why they don't like it. They don't know why people are upset about it. Yet, you can easily find why. And these were 2 short videos. There's multiple videos out there talking about explaining the outrage.
and Christians are targeted so often and on such a wide scale. That's what makes it all the more important to actually acknowledge what's happening and who the victims are. And that is why it's a problem when prominent and influential...
You see, Christians are attacked a lot and called the aggressor a lot.
People refuse to do that. Okay, so yesterday, shortly after the news broke of the attacks, several prominent Democrats released their canned statements of remorse. But they all used a certain phrase that has since gotten a lot of attention. Let me pull up the... So this is Barack Obama. This is what he tweeted yesterday. He said, "The attacks on tourists and Easter worshippers in Sri Lanka are an attack on humanity. On a day devoted to love, redemption, and renewal, we pray for the victims and stand with the people of Sri Lanka." Here's Hillary Clinton. "On this holy weekend for many faiths, we must stand united against hatred and violence. I'm praying for everyone affected by today's horrific attacks on Easter worshippers and travelers in Sri Lanka." Julian...
How many faiths worship Easter? Because to Hillary, many faiths worship Easter.
Castro. "On a day of redemption and hope, the evil of these attacks on Easter worshippers and tourists in Sri Lanka is deeply saddening."
Okay. Another one talking about Easter worshippers. Not just the 2. It was a number. It was multiple.
"My prayers today are with the dead and injured and their families. May we find grace." And there were several other tweets like that from Democrats. Easter worshippers. The word Christian doesn't appear in any of these statements. They are Easter worshippers. Now, if just one of them had used that odd phrase, not a phrase that you hear often at all, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that before. Easter worshippers.
Like I said, it was just one person that really wanted to be that big of an outrage, but come on now.
But if just one of them had used that phrase, then I would say, okay, well, it's a weird choice of words, not much else going on there. The fact that Obama and Clinton and Castro and several other Democrats all seized on this one phrase at roughly the same time and phrased it basically the same way, that tells me that this is calculated. Now, this has drawn some comparisons to Elon.
Yeah, you see, feels calculated. This is an obviously calculated move. This wasn't just all random. No, this, again, feels calculated like you're saying. It's happening too much with too many people for it just to be, someone using a weird phrase.
on Ilhan Omar's tweet about Notre Dame, the Notre Dame Cathedral fire. If you'll remember last week, she when that happened, she sent out a tweet talking about the art and architecture, but didn't specifically call it a church or discuss its spiritual significance. And she was getting a lot of criticism for that. Now, I defended Omar on that because it was a perfectly normal and fine tweet. And as a Muslim, I don't really expect her to extol the spiritual virtues of a church because she's a Muslim. And it doesn't have any spiritual significance to her.
Yeah, we talked about this with the video where Chankana, Cryel trying to claim Shapiro made a racist statement when it wasn't. I made a response to the video. It was short, but like I couldn't watch it anymore. It was so stupid. And then like there were so many comments and they're just destroying their video. So many comments destroying their video.
So I thought that criticism was stupid. This is different though. Okay, because this seems very much like a decision was made to avoid using the word Christian and instead to adopt a kind of bizarre euphemism. Now, why do that? Well, because Christians are not an approved victim group. These people, Obama, Clinton, Castro, etc., they don't want us to immediately associate Christian with victim. They want, if anything, the opposite sort of association. They want us to associate Christians with terrorists and bullies. But if Christians are victims, that throws a wrench in the whole narrative, and that's the reason why they chose Easter worshipers instead. And I am 100% convinced that that was a decision, a calculated decision that was made. Now, of course, we all know when they say Easter worshiper, we know what they mean. We know that people who worship on Easter are Christians.
You see,
but the idea...
Right there, that part is really important for what Cenk is trying to claim this whole outrage is. Because, like he said, we all know what Easter worshiper is. We know they mean Christian. We know that. The reason for it is because of something else. You compare it to how they treat Muslim victims, it's completely different. It's night and day.
Just to blunt the emotional, visceral reaction you get from hearing Christians were attacked. They don't want that reaction. So the idea is to make it sound as vague and ambiguous as possible. And yeah, that's a problem. If you don't think it's a problem, think about this. Imagine, think about after the Orlando attack at the gay nightclub in Orlando back in 2016 or 15. Well, imagine if Obama had called it an attack on bar hoppers or on club attendees or something in that vein, and had made no mention that they were gay people, chosen as victims for that fact. Well, he wouldn't do that, and he didn't do that. Politicians, especially on the left, but on the right as well, made sure to specifically mention the LGBT community and homophobia and so on.
See, this is why there's outrage. It's not because we don't understand what Easter worshiper means. We don't think it could mean something else. We don't think it might be something else. We know it means Christian. Like you said, of course we all know they mean Christian. The outrage is because since we're attacked, we're treated different from when other groups are attacked. And he goes into the New Zealand shooting, which is the most obvious example to go to.
At the very beginning, they were making it about that. And for good reason. Maybe a better analogy actually would be, just because it's more recent, would be the attacks at the mosques in New Zealand last month. Here's what... So there were 2 mosques were attacked in those horrible attacks. And here's what Obama and Clinton said after those attacks.
Obama and Clinton. We know what they said about the Christian attacks, right? Here's what they said about the New Zealand.
Obama said, Michelle and I send our condolences to the people of New Zealand. We grieve with you and the Muslim community. All of us must stand against hatred in all its forms.
We stand with the Muslim community and stand against hatred of all forms. Christian gets attacked, we should be unified, the same as the other. No condemnation of hate, and then no word of Christian. See the difference? That's where the outrage is.
Hillary. My heart breaks for New Zealand and the global Muslim community. We must continue the fight to fight the perpetuation and normalization of Islamophobia and racism in all its forms.
There we go. Hillary Clinton. Christians were attacked. This is a sad day for many faiths. Easter worshippers were attacked. Much love. Muslims were attacked. We must stand up against Islamophobia. These Muslim community all over the world. We must help them, and racism and all this other stuff. Condemnation of all the hate. You see the problem? That's the problem. That's what they never get to in the TYT video. They never get to that. They make up their own problem that they make up their own argument that we're making that we aren't making. They make up their own argument and then they counter that argument because they don't know how to. It's either because they don't know how to address our argument or because they refuse to address our argument. It's one or the other. They make an easy argument that they can take down, something that makes them look good, something that they can easily take down, and then they take out the fake argument, one that's not being made.
White supremacist terrorists must be condemned by leaders everywhere. Their murderous hatred must be stopped.
And even more, the attackers, white nationalist terrorists, were terrorists. The attacker was white nationalist, and the victims were Muslims. Here, we don't even get what the attackers are, and the victims were Easter worshippers, and no condemnation of hate. See the difference? Christian are victims, and they're treated differently. That's where the outrage is. Okay, we can talk about that, but we don't because they never get to it.
Okay. Well, that gives up the game right there, doesn't it? There was obviously a decision that was made to make sure to mention Muslim and Islamophobia, white supremacism. There was obviously a decision not to mention specifics yesterday.
Yeah. New Zealand attack, they were very specific about the attacker, the victims, and Islam, and what the reasoning is. And here, you're more specific. It was just all faiths and then Easter worshippers.
Okay, so you can't compare. I don't see how anyone could compare Hillary's tweet about the church attacks to her tweet about the mosque attacks and not see a problem. It's very clear. Okay? What she did not say, what she made a point of not saying is this is an attack on Christians. Islamic terrorism must be condemned everywhere. It's a worldwide scourge. Even though that's true, she didn't say it. The very fact that the term Islamophobia exists and Christophobia doesn't really exist, or though no one really uses it, even though Christians are killed by Muslims for their faith far, far, far more than the reverse, that tells you everything you need to know right there.
That's the problem. That is the problem. How we are treated differently from the Muslims because we aren't a protected victim group. We get treated differently. You don't condemn radical Islam, but you condemn white nationalism whenever white nationalism happens. A radical Islam attack happens, you don't condemn it. Muslims are the victims. You talk about Islamophobia and how Muslims are the victims. Christians are the victims. Even more Christians are the victims. And it's all of a sudden Easter worshippers and many faiths. See the difference? That's the problem.
It's all about narrative building. And that's
It is all about narrative building. Exactly.
all that these Democrats care about in any given situation. And the whole idea of victimhood is so valuable to them and so precious that they guard it, and they will not allow the wrong groups into that camp. They just won't allow it. And so even if there are hundreds of Christians being killed every single month for their faith across the world, and most of the time by Muslims, they can't acknowledge that. They never will. And that is cowardly and disgusting. And it would be hard to go overboard in condemning it once you understand what this is really coming from, or what the real motivation is.
This is a problem. This is a problem. We compared responses already. Something is wrong here. And now, after looking at the actual arguments that were made, let's look at the stupid TYT video.
There have been as many as 8 suicide bombings in Sri Lanka. More than 290 people have been...
Notice the difference already. Like, she went from the disinterested to she's actually interested in the story all of a sudden. Why are you interested in the murders all of a sudden? Why are you actually caring about the story now?
Killed or injured. 500 people have been injured. And so it's a devastating story. But conservatives...
That was devastating, yeah.
Daily Caller have decided to focus on the most irrelevant thing imaginable. And
goddamn. First off, it isn't...
That is the type of language used to describe the people who were targeted.
First off, it isn't irrelevant. It is pretty relevant, and we just went over why it's relevant. We explained why it's relevant. Now, this is why it's relevant to us. That's why we care so much. That's why we talked. It's not because what y'all are going to go on, but that's why we talked about. That's why they talked about. That's why they brought it up. But you're not going to look at that. You don't want to have a conversation. You don't. So instead you do this. It isn't relevant. Honestly, if it is, then why the fuck are you focusing on it? There's no reason for you to focus on it. Like, you can be condemning the radical Islam right now. But no, you're not. You chose to do this instead. Okay? You're doing damage control because it really is horrendous. And honestly, just at this point, I really honestly believe you hate America. You hate white male Christians, okay? And it's just wrong. Come on, you focus on language used all the time. You talk about the exact language Trump uses all the time. So the irony of this is just funny. And then the title, Conservatives Triggered by Obama's and Hillary's Easter tweets. The irony of you calling anyone else triggered. You get triggered a lot in this video. Okay? You get triggered all the time. You get triggered in multiple videos. This is nothing new. Okay? You're triggered about this. Okay? And it's not just that. Triggered is something that the left has embraced as a good thing. You remember that? All the trigger warnings they want because it's just like not a bad thing to be triggered. Yet, because it's not a good thing and people are realizing that, y'all are literally throwing it onto everyone else. Because you just can't handle the fact. You can't just sit back and deal with the fact that, well, liberals kind of embrace the term triggered.
Now, the headline reads, one word noticeably absent as Trump, Obama, Hillary, and 2020 Democrats respond to Sri Lanka attacks. Okay, so let's take a look at Obama's tweet on this. The attacks on tourists and Easter worshippers in Sri Lanka are an attack on humanity. On a day devoted to love, redemption, and renewal, we pray for the victims and stand with the people of Sri Lanka. So what could he have possibly said wrong in that tweet?
Can I just...
First off, the title said one word noticeably absent. So why don't you look and think about what could be missing from the tweet? Not what is said wrong. What is missing in that tweet? Sit back and think about it. Okay? Because that is a horrible question. And no, it isn't about what he said wrong. It's again, we compared the responses that they did already. Something is wrong here. And honestly, we already explained it.
Look, Trump has put out 1,000 tweets of the most atrocious things you've ever heard.
No, he hasn't. No, y'all claim he has, but he hasn't put out 1,000 tweets of the most atrocious things you ever heard. In fact, a lot of it is just y'all making stuff up. Like when they asked him about MS-13, and Trump said they're animals. They aren't human, they're animals. MS-13, you attack him for, well, claiming he said Mexicans are animals. He clearly didn't, but y'all claim he did.
And wild misspellings, insane things like just the word covfefe.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, he takes stuff out of context and lie and say something is offensive when it isn't. That's what y'all do. Y'all get triggered over non-offensive stuff. And I'm sorry, typos aren't a problem. Who cares about misspellings in a fucking tweet? The fact that you see that as such a major problem, part of the whole 1,000 atrocious things is horrible. How dare he misspell stuff? Dang, that just shows how easily triggered you are. And this is honestly when I see a misspelling that the left does, I kind of point it out or comment it because y'all laugh at everyone else doing misspellings like it's y'all are immune to it and it's not normal. And if someone misspells a word, their whole argument is void because they're apparently an idiot because of a typo or a misspelling.
She then said was a secret sign and code. And so they didn't have a problem with any of those insane tweets.
No. We don't have a problem with typos. We don't have a problem with fake outrage. We don't have a problem with any of that.
Right.
But that benign tweet, not even benign, positive tweet saying, my God, my heart goes out to these people who are worshiping on these. What did they find wrong in that?
Well, they also...
No, it isn't a victim. It was just a clear tactic and a clear problem. And look how much emotion you put into this video already when compared to your video talking about. Okay, you weren't this angry at the terrorists. Okay, yet you're this angry at the people. At these people. You're more angry at those people than you showed when you were talking about the anger against the terrorists that killed hundreds of people and injured hundreds more. Nearly 1,000. It was like 800 injured or 500 injured. Okay. You are more emotional than this, okay? Because you can be angry at white male Christians, like you were on the New Zealand shootings, but if it's a Muslim, in the New Zealand shooting, he wasn't even Christian, but y'all try to make him out to be. When he asked if he was Christian, he said, I don't know if God exists. I don't know. So there's that. And Muslims, the Muslim ones, you didn't have really any outrage. You really couldn't be angry. Now it's white males that are you can be angry at those people.
Mentioned Hillary Clinton and how her tweet was wrong. So let's read hers and see what's wrong with it.
Oh, this ought to be really shameful, I'm sure.
On this holy weekend for many faiths, we must stand united against hatred and violence. I'm praying for everyone affected by today's horrific attacks on Easter worshipers and travelers in Sri Lanka. I don't get it. I mean, I can't find...
Okay. That tweet is a problem. It is a problem. Not because it's because of something you never get into that we just saw the other videos on. You compare it to the attacks against Muslims compared to anything else, there is a clear difference. There's a clear difference between this and the last video. There's a clear difference between New Zealand shooting in this and the Muslim one. Muslim bombings. Okay? Whenever there's a New Zealand shooting, you were angry that not everyone was shouting at the top of their lungs that it was a terrorism, even though everyone agreed it was and everyone said it was. I saw multiple right-wing organizations calling it terrorism, even though you claim none did. Okay? I don't know why, but y'all claim no one was, and y'all were angry at it because they didn't explicitly yell at the top of their lungs that it was terrorism, like every 5 seconds, but y'all leave out Christian. There's a lot of people, they just leave out the word Christian, and they don't condemn hate. There's a clear difference, and then y'all don't see a problem with that. See the hypocrisy? Y'all report nonstop talking about the hate Muslims deal with and how evil Christians are. Okay, what if this was reversed? What if they never mentioned Muslims? Oh yeah. What if they never mentioned the Muslim victims? Y'all were angry that they didn't say terrorism enough. Okay? So, y'all be doing so much more talking about the evil Christians when all Muslims killed, and they were celebrating this in their basements if they didn't even explicitly say that Muslims were the victims.
Anything in there that I'm offended by, so why don't
Because it's not about being offensive. It was a clear tactic, a clear problem. And then look how more emotional this is. Look how triggered you're getting about this. Okay, look how more angry. Again, able to be angry against white males, but so you can't have this anger against any Muslim.
go ahead and read from the Daily Caller? What's so offensive? Former President Barack Obama, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and all of the 2020 Democratic hopefuls tweeted in response to the attacks, and although at least some of the bombings specifically targeted Christians on the holiest day of the year, Easter Sunday, hardly any of their tweets mentioned Christianity.
And yeah, that's a problem. Once again, compare it to the attack against Muslims. Everyone was calling it the Muslims were the victims. Everyone was calling about how it was terrorism. Everyone was talking about the white nationalists. Okay, everyone was condemning it. Everyone was saying it for what it was. And here, everyone's avoiding the word Christian all of a sudden. You're against naming who the victims are?
What? It's uneven.
That fake laugh you do, because that fake laugh, come on. You're triggered that someone doesn't like how you leave out Christianity whenever they're victims. Yet you're angry that people weren't yelling terrorism every 2 seconds whenever a Muslim was attacked. Come on now.
Easter worshipers. Easter is a Christian holiday. Like, what did they think that Muslims were targeted on Easter? Or
why not just say Christian? If it is an Easter holiday, why not just say Christian? We already talked about white as a problem, so pointing stuff out triggered you. Sorry, pointing stuff out triggered you, and now you're just a way free to attack Christians.
Hindus are targeted on Easter? What are you talking about? There's no bunny in Islam.
Okay. And no, it isn't about that. It isn't about trying to...
Okay, so what? I mean, what on God's green earth?
No, but the amazing thing is...
No, it isn't about what you're saying. It isn't about maybe they could have been talking about Islam or Hindus. No, they weren't talking... That's not what the outrage was. I already showed you 2 different videos about what it really was about. Okay, because we know what they mean by Easter worshippers. That ain't the outrage. I already showed you 2 videos explaining it very clearly. There's many. You can easily figure it out. They could have found videos themselves very easily. Just YouTube it. I'm pretty sure they would have read more of that article that would have explained it. But no, y'all don't. Y'all just leave it at that.
If you just go back and read headlines from the Daily Caller, let's look at this one from 2016. Tainted alcohol poisons dozens of Christmas worshippers.
Well, why didn't they say Christians? Oh my God.
Oh yeah, this was pretty stupid of the Daily Water to do that. It was pretty stupid for them to specifically point it out. But why did you specifically target the Daily Caller? Why not any of the other videos or articles? Because the Daily Caller isn't the only one. I just showed you 2 other videos, and there's many, many more. This isn't just a Daily Caller, yet you're using them as an example for every other right-winger, even though they aren't. Okay? You specifically pointed out this one because you can tear this one down, but what about the 2 videos? Can you tear those two down? Can you find a time whenever they didn't refer to Christians as Christians, they referred to as Christmas worshippers or Easter worshippers? Okay? It isn't, and again, it's not about them not using Christians, it's about how the Christians are treated differently. Okay? That's the outrage. It's not, oh, we don't know what they're talking about when they say Easter worshippers, or, oh, it's, why don't they just say Christians? It's, how dare they try to just talk about the holiday? The problem is how Christians are treated differently. They never get to that.
Hey,
Some of
Christians,
bitches.
how dare they?
Okay, I'm so offended by the Daily
Yeah.
Caller, and they're
It's not about being offended. It's not. Y'all are offended by people trying to point out how hypocritical people like you are. And you're just trying to say everyone else is offended.
obvious Christianophobia.
The Washington
And then you say Christianophobia like it's ridiculous, yet you also act like Islamophobia is an actual problem. I'm sorry. Christians are persecuted as well. In fact, as the previous two videos have pointed out, Christians are persecuted at a very high rate, and the one described as a higher rate than Muslims. Christians are murdered at a higher rate for their faith than Muslims are. Come on now.
Times, another right-wing outlet,
I don't think I would
tweeted
call them
Easter
right-wing.
worshippers shocked as car ran.
I really wanted to call them right wing. Y'all are just super extreme left, and Easter worshippers shocked as car rams church injuring 21. Alright, again, this is just a title. It's just a title of a random newspaper. It's not people talking about the incident. You open up the article, I'm pretty sure they say Christian. They're not avoiding Christian, but again, it's not about using Easter worshippers instead of Christian. It's not. That's not the whole thing. It's not the crutch. How dare they say Easter worshippers? Again, it's very odd. It's odd that Washington Times would say Easter worshippers. It really is odd, and it's the clear bias and difference. You never address that though. You just do this because this is all you know how to do. Okay? You go, you make up a fake argument, and then you fight that fake argument. No one's making this argument that you just randomly made up. No one's saying this. I showed you what people were actually saying. 2 videos. And you can find more. Yet, well, you just don't want to address it. That or you just refuse to it, and you honestly think that's how people act, which I honestly don't believe it. You specifically pointed out these 2 places. Why? Because these are easy places for you to attack and debunk. You don't take on any actual challenges. You don't change your beliefs. You don't show the actual facts.
Church injuring 21.
How could they?
Now that's a tweet from 2014, but
How could they? They didn't even mention Christians.
I don't know.
Only vaguely referring to Easter.
There's a war on Christians here in America, you know?
That's
Well, there kind of is, and once again, you just seem more angry at people wanting the victims to be pointed out than the actual attackers, than you are at the actual attackers. How does this not reveal the problem to you? Okay, how are you not so self-aware that you realize, wait a minute, they must be talking about how we treat Christians differently. Come on now. They must be talking about how we always attack them, no matter what. Come on.
what you're offended by? 290 people died.
Yes, 290 people died. You're showing less emotion for that than you are with this. Okay?
I have one more, though. And this is a tweet from April 21st, 2019. Donald Trump.
Of course.
Heartfelt.
Okay? Trump's tweet is bad. Let's see. You still don't get it. Because it's not about just leaving Christian out. Heartfelt condolences from people of the United States to the people of Sri Lanka. Basically, our country is heartfelt to your country. The horrible, he actually does say terrorists, unlike the other people, terrorist attacks on churches and hotels. Not he specifies churches and hotels that have killed at least 138. That's the mistake. Million it was a million people and badly injured 600 more. We stand ready to help.
Condolences.
Yeah, we stand ready to help them. Okay, y'all still don't get the problem though. Y'all really
It's
don't.
for the people of the United States to the people of Sri Lanka on the horrible terrorist attacks on churches and hotels that have killed at least 138 million people and badly injured 600 more. We stand ready to help.
Okay, you really still don't get it. You really don't. I'm pretty sure you do get it, because how can y'all two, such a big news organization or political organization, sorry, because y'all don't do news, y'all are propaganda. How can you not see the actual arguments if you do this much research on trying to disprove your fake reasoning? How do you not have at least stumbled onto the actual reasoning people use? Okay, you can compare his tweets against the Muslim attack and against the Christians. They're relatively the same. It is how he normally does it. Democrats, they are completely different on Christian attacks than Muslim attacks. That's the problem. Christians are treated less. Christians are treated as if they are less. And they don't like that. They don't like. That's the problem.
So look, that's an obvious screw up. At the time, it was 138 people, according to the reports, but that was up for 20 minutes. Is there no one who's going to double check that it wasn't 138 million people?
I'm sorry, but like I said, typos are not an issue. A little mistake is not an issue. The number, that's obvious mistake. I understand that's an obvious mistake, but that's not an issue. I'm sorry, that isn't. Are you making a mistake like that? Where you put a word in, you misspell a word, numbers off, you make a mistake like, I'm sorry, that's not an issue.
That would have been the largest genocide.
Look at Anna. She's trying to hold it in, but she's just so triggered. Look how she blows up.
In world history, etc.
She's so triggered. Look at her. Chink, 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 chink.
But that is not
She's about to blow. She's about to blow.
an issue.
Okay. I didn't even bring that up to point to the mistake, right? I brought that up because there's no mention of Christians. There's no mention of Christians.
God damn, she's this triggered. There's more emotion in this little 2-second part than the entire part about the Christian bombings. And she still doesn't somehow, they still act like they don't understand what the actual issue is about Easter worshippers and avoiding the word Christian. And compare how they treat when Muslims are a victim versus how they treat when Christians are a victim. Compare the two. That's the problem people have. Okay? And goddamn, you're so triggered and angry at this attack and still unaware of what the problem is. Are you even self-aware? Come on.
This president needs to be impeached. No mention of Christians.
I mean, 138 million Christians were killed, and still no mention of Christians.
And still no update on the attack. You only did one video that I was able to see. And this video is much longer and emotional with more time and effort into it. This video is much longer than the video on the actual attack, which, again, there's still no update on it. You still didn't do an update. On New Zealand, you probably had, like, multiple videos on it already. You at this point, you had lots of videos on it.
Okay, so look, guys, it's a serious story, but we have
Clowns.
we have weirdos and clowns on the right wing, and then they turn this into like, and then
The weirdos and clowns are on the left wing. Y'all are the weirdos and clowns.
mainstream media oftentimes gets sucked into, oh, it's a debate. I saw it all over.
No. Okay, it's not. Oh, it's a debate. It's not.
This story, but oh, it's a debate. Print not. I saw it all over online, and I didn't know where it started until we started investigating that.
Oh, it's a debate. That's not what people on the other news channels. I haven't seen anyone talk, oh, this is the debate.
And the right-wing trash outlets print nonsense day in, day out. And
Day in, day out nonsense. Yeah, that's your entire propaganda organization in a nutshell. And I'm sorry, you're talking about the left wing going, oh, this is debate and supporting the right. I'm sorry, the mainstream media is left wing and they attack the right wing. So where is this in the mainstream media? CNN, ABC, CBS, MSNBC? I'm sorry. They're all left wing. They attack the right wing. I don't understand. They're constantly attacking the right wing. They don't go, oh, this is debate. We must treat them equally and fair. No, they're constantly attacking the right wing. They don't have a single day where they don't attack the right wing. Okay, they're left wingers. They're left wing bias. That's just a fact. The majority of journalists are left wing. That's a fact. Okay, like you can't. I already disproved the fact. I'll link the video. I already disproved the whole fake right wing bias. The first video I did on TYT. The first video, and honestly, I actually put a lot of effort in until I realized this takes too long and it's too hard. I need more time, or at least like help, or to make money off of this. But yeah, I'm sorry. This is just, come on now.
mainstream media is like, oh my God, what did they say? Oh my God, oh, this is a debate. Let's have a debate. Does Easter mean Christian or does...
No, they don't. They don't make videos. They make videos attacking the right wing for everything they do. They don't look at what a right wing does and go, oh, let's have a debate. And go on.
I mean Hindu. Let's debate.
No. Again, you're still missing the fucking point. The problem. This isn't the problem. It's not that you're focusing on the fake scenarios because you truly hate Christians. When they were attacked, there was very little emotion. Now you're trying to... The attack tried to be justified. They tried to justify the attack. You even tried to justify the attack in your video. Okay, talking about how the Muslims were being hanged, and so this could have been retaliation for that. Well, I mean, come on now. The problem, once again, as we have seen, is not, oh, he's a worshiper. That could mean anything, can it? No, the problem is the distinct difference on how Christians are treated and how Muslims are treated. Okay, that's the problem that people have. Come on now.
50-50, let's bring on Trump supporters. Okay, well, is there a chocolate laying egg on but
Chink still misses the point and hates him and hates it when, well, people hire someone he hates. The way he's acting, everyone must be progressive or else they are dumbass idiots. That's literally Chink's worldview. Is there anyone he doesn't call an idiot or stupid that isn't a progressive? Come on now.
In Hindu tradition, it could be.
Facebook is now working with the Daily Caller to do fact checking.
Oh, come on.
I'm not kidding. It's a story that John reported on Friday. Yeah.
He hates it when people, like I said, he hates it when people hire someone they don't like. They must hire all progressives. If it's a progressive they hire, he'd be all for it. He doesn't like people with different opinions. He hates it. It bothers him. They're all either stupid or evil.
Absolutely grotesque.
Yes.
So, meanwhile, progressive organizations bring facts, and they're like, ooh, facts. Ooh,
No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't bring facts. Y'all are propaganda. That's what y'all are. If y'all don't bring facts, you don't even address the actual point. Come on, louder with Crowder in the Daily Wire. Come on, wait.
Documents.
Alright, louder with Crowder. It's a comedy place. The Daily Wire and Fox News use documents. They back up their claims. You use only facts that support your claim, and then take stuff out of context and lie about what documents say. And there are times when you do it when it's on screen and we can see you lying. I don't understand how people can watch your videos and still believe you're truth-telling. Come on now.
Right? So, now there's giant right-wing bias in the media.
What? Right-wing bias? Right-wing bias. In the media, in the mainstream media, it's right. No. It is left-wing bias. You were just so fucking left-wing that CNN and MSNBC apparently look right-wing to you, apparently. Alright, this shows how fucked up you are. This is... God damn, you can't just sit there... I can't believe you're honestly sitting back and claiming there's a right-wing bias in America's news media. That's like the most laughable bullshit ever. Like, does... How do people who watch your videos even believe that? I already debunked that shit. Again, it was part of my first fucking video I did on there, because it's just the biggest lump of bullshit ever.
Love the right wing. They love these nonsense debates that they start because it's a soap opera.
What? They love the right wing? Is that why they attack the right wing nonstop? Is that why they do what they do to make the right wing look bad? They have to know. Y'all have to know that the mainstream media hates Trump and Republicans, right? They attack Trump and Republicans all the time to make them out to look evil. They're pro illegal immigration. They're pro the majority of what you are pro for. They're just not all socialists. But because I guess they're not all socialists, they're right wing. Yet if you're not a socialist, you're right wing in Jenks' head. Okay, you can't be disconnected, can you? They're obviously not fucking right wing. They're clearly left wing. The mainstream media is clearly left wing. My God.
And the cable news loves soap operas. They're like, progressives, you're so boring with all your facts and documents and statistics and polling.
You have no facts. You didn't even address the actual argument being used at all. You ignore stats that disprove your narrative. You really do. And you use polling as a crutch. It's the only thing you have. It's polling. That's why you use it so much. Because you don't have documents. You ignore the documents. And you ignore stats. You ignore facts because they go against what you claim. They really do. And then you just do polling. And then if a polling doesn't go in your favor, all of a sudden the poll is biased in some way against you. Because that's gotta be the case. It can't be that that people just disagree. That can't... Oh man, it can't be that case. Because how dare people disagree with Chang? Okay, if you disagree with Chang, you're evil, stupid. Or if a poll disagrees with Chang, then clearly it was biased against them. Come on now. Come on.
Snooze fest. Let's debate things that don't make any sense.
Let's debate things that don't make any sense? That is literally all you've done so far. Bravo. Will you ever realize that? Will you ever realize that that's literally all you've done so far? Come on now.
Next on CNN. And I'm just, look,
He legitimately used CNN specifically as right wing. He is so delusional. He's so he's so fucking left wing that everyone, he's so fucking left wing that if you disagree with him slightly on anything, you're apparently a right winger. God damn.
I'm going to say CNN, but it's all the media, all the mainstream media. They all...
Oh, fucking hell no, it's not all the mainstream media. Come on. Don't you... First off, the mainstream media was like, what, 90% negative coverage on Trump? Plus MS-13, MSNBC with their constant attacks on Trump with the Russia collusion? Come on now. The entire news media was silent and nearly crying whenever Trump won the presidency. They were crying when Trump won. Come on now. No, they don't have some right-wing bias. And you still, again, why do you only show that part? Why don't you read on about what, the Daily Caller, whatever it was? Why don't you read on about what they say about it? Why don't you show any videos or any other articles talking about it? Is it because you really don't want to address the actual point that's being made, and you're just using this made up point to, make a point because you honestly don't have an actual point to be made.
And it's not even just cable news. A lot of the papers then go and have these 50-50 debates over things that are not 50-50.
Not 50-50? Okay, for anything that people disagree with you on, it's not 50-50. Because in your head, you're obviously 100% right. Okay, because you can never be wrong. And everyone who disagrees with you is stupid and evil, because that's how you are. Okay, and honestly, yeah, I do agree. Certain things are not 50-50. Like murdering children. With abortion.
Made up controversies. My God, Rudy Giuliani.
Made up controversies? My God. Okay, another thing. If it's a controversy against someone you like, or a controversy against you, or the left wing, or anything like that, it's made up. But then you get angry about every little thing Trump does. Every little thing Trump does. Everything he does is a controversy. Okay? Everything. You make a controversy out of literally everything. God damn, you're so fucking biased.
Goes on television in the weekend. And Trump is documented as having said dozens of lies in the Mueller report.
No, he hasn't. In fact, Mueller, he hasn't been documented for thousands of lies. In fact, once again, Trump Fan Network specifically is good at this, but pointing this stuff out because he proves the point. Y'all say something that Trump said is a lie when it isn't. Y'all take stuff out of context to make it a lie. And then that's all you do. You make up truths as lies. You say Trump says something true, you call it a lie, and then you just add it up. Even when it's proven that what Trump said is true, you still keep it as a lie. So you have the tally count of so many fucking lies, and then you keep stuff like Trump's mile-high hamburger claim as a lie. Come on now. Come on now.
Outrageous lies about things that are of great import.
No, he doesn't.
Things where he orders people to break the law. And
first off, the only specific case I'm pretty sure that I know of right now that you're talking about, Michael Cohen. Mueller came out and debunked it, and then BuzzFeed, your news source, because they don't lie, because they aren't right-wing. Would BuzzFeed lie? No, they aren't right-wing. Okay, they came out with a correction, because they lied. Come on. Trump didn't direct Michael Cohen to lie. In fact, the Mueller report specifically says Trump didn't direct Cohen to lie.
And lie about it, etc. Giuliani says,
no, he doesn't. He didn't direct. He didn't. He really didn't.
Well, the press said Obama saying you can keep your doctor, and it turns out you got, a better coverage with someone else. But that he lied, right? Now, of course, Giuliani didn't add that you got better coverage.
Because you really didn't get better coverage. The price went up, and honestly, healthcare quality went up, and people were pissed. Okay, they were promised that they could keep their coverage, that they could keep their doctor. Well, that turned out to be 100% false because you couldn't keep your coverage, you couldn't keep your doctor. Everything just suddenly changed, and people were pissed, especially since prices went up. It became more expensive.
Which was the case.
Yeah.
But why? Because the mainstream media back then called it
No, it wasn't.
the lie of the year. It turns out Obama lied. You got even better coverage under his proposal than he said.
No.
And why? Because they got to make it 50-50.
That's not at all. And literally, that's the only thing you could come up with Obama's lie. Come on now. You're honestly thinking that that's the worst thing Obama's ever done. Like, he's never made a mistake. Yeah, Trump makes a mistake every other second. This is the bullshit I'm talking about. Trump makes a mistake every other second, but Obama never makes a mistake. His lie is things are actually better than he claimed. Fuck no. Okay? Y'all are clearly the ones that are biased if that's your whole viewpoint on the world. I'm sorry. Obama isn't this perfect little angel. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, Junky Junk. He isn't a perfect little angel. He's not perfect. He makes mistakes. The fact that you can't even admit that people on your side make mistakes, it's outrageously stupid.
That is equivalent.
Yeah. Like, if you 100% agree with Chank, you're perfect, you're nice, you're awesome, you're amazing. You disagree with Chank, suddenly you're stupid and evil. Come on.
Equivalent to thousands of lies that Donald Trump has told.
But he hasn't told thousands of lies. And videos debunking a lot of your claims of lies. Trump Fan Network specifically is really good at it.
No. So, look, you actually have every right in the world to be absolutely outraged at Muslim extremists who did this bombing.
Yeah. We are outraged. Okay? 7 minutes in, and now you actually get to you actually finally call them Muslim extremists that did the bombings. Come on now. Yes, you do have a right. We are outraged.
But no, it's never enough. Somehow they have to blame Obama and Hillary.
We're not blaming Obama and Hillary for the attacks, dumbass.
And say, oh, they didn't, say Christians enough. It's not enough to say happy holidays in the Christmas.
What's wrong with saying Christians? And no, it's not, we didn't say Christians enough. It's the clear difference on how Christians are treated compared to Muslims. You never address it, though.
Season. No, you must say Merry Christmas.
I'm sorry. You acting like people saying happy holidays during the Christmas season is just people saying happy holidays. No, I'm sorry. It's funny that you make that comparison. You do realize that people started saying happy holidays not because it's the Christmas holiday, but because there's multiple different holidays made during that time period, like Hanukkah. It's not just Christmas. So instead of saying Merry Christmas for Christmas, they're saying Happy Holidays for any possible holiday that you could be celebrating at that time. So, funny little comparison. You don't even realize that there was a clear reason to say Happy Holidays. And it was, because they wanted to be super inclusive and they don't want to offend people by saying Merry Christmas. Like, there was a whole reason for that. How do you not realize that?
Man, what on God's... And these are the guys who talk about safe spaces.
Well, what they do...
We talk about safe spaces because, again, the left wing brags about their safe spaces. And, Chang, I'm sorry, you're clearly in a safe space right now because you won't even address the actual problem that I pointed out already multiple times, what the actual problem is, and what the 2 videos before me pointed out, and what many videos and articles are pointing out. You ignore the actual fucking problem.
Oh, this is, by the way, this is identity politics. This is
fucking hell. Y'all are going to the identity politics. This is y'all doing projection. This is projection 101. I'm sorry. The left wing is they're the kings of identity politics. Come fucking on. Okay? Anytime a black person gets arrested, even if it's justified, if black person has a gun and they're shooting at people and then they get shot by a cop, even if it's justified, it's black, innocent, unarmed black men killed by cop. White cop. You always put white cop when you can. Muslims are attacked. It's white nationalist attacks Muslims. It's always a jump on identity politics, talking about how blacks are oppressed. It's always blacks are the victims. It's always Muslims are the victims. Come fucking on, y'all. This is what y'all do.
100% identity politics. And what
100% identity politics is what you do. Come. How you're so projecting so hard right now.
they want to do is they want to specifically use words and phrases like radical Islamic terrorism.
Kind of like how you don't want to use specific words, and well, it is radical Islamic terrorism. You act like it's not, and it's weird that people would want to address it because it's an actual fucking problem. That you want to use specific words like Islamophobia, racism, sexism, and white nationalist every chance you get. Everyone who's white and that has attacked someone before is suddenly a possible white nationalist. They're all white nationalists. They'll say white nationalist racism every chance y'all get. The racist white man. the sexist male, the Islamophobic Christian. That's literally all y'all do.
So Islam and Muslims are always the antagonists.
Kind of like how you try to make white men always the antagonist. Christians are always the antagonist. Whites are always the antagonist. Males are always the antagonist. Come on. This was a radical Islamic attack, and then you're over here trying to talk about how Muslims are somehow the victim in this case. In your fucked up scenario in your head, Muslims are the victims because we pointed out how y'all treat us differently from Muslims. Yeah.
And they want to use Christians in cases like this where they're the victims, and they specifically want that word because they want to put Christians in the place of being victimized.
The victimhood status is literally the entire stance of the left, of your whole thing. Y'all are always trying to make Muslims the victims here. Y'all are always trying to make women the victims. You're always trying to make blacks the victims, no matter what the scenario is. You somehow made this about how Muslims are being... You somehow made Muslims the victims in this case, in your own twisted logic. Okay? And then you're over here being all fucked up, trying to claim how we're the ones doing identity politics, when clearly it's not. It's y'all. This is what y'all do. This is... Just take what you're saying, and it's literally applied to everyone on the left. Because that's all you fucking do.
By those terrible Muslims. Like, that's what... It's the narrative. That's really what's at play here.
Yeah. Your narrative. That's the issue people have, is your narrative at play on how you make Muslims, you have this little victimhood place, but Christians are not in the victimhood, so they're treated completely different. That's the whole issue here. About your whole identity. The issue is your identity politics. The issue is how you treat people differently. The issue is trying to make certain groups victims and other groups evil. The issue is everything your narrative. That's the issue that we claim. I'm pretty sure you watched the video. I'm pretty sure you're saying this because you watch a lot of the Daily Wire. So I'm pretty sure you saw that guy talk, and now you're like, oh crap, he can't be saying this. We gotta somehow bounce it back onto them, even though, because it's the same wording almost. And he made the video before you, so yeah, I'm pretty sure you saw that, and you're like, crap, we need to spin this around onto them. I'm pretty sure that's what happened, because come on now, you're projecting hard.
Now, of course, everyone knows that Easter worshippers are Christian.
Yes, we know that. Still missing the fucking problem. You never want to address the actual problem. 8 minutes in, only a minute left, and you never even address the actual point.
I mean, could you imagine if the left wing, when every time a right-wing terrorist in this country committed an act of murder, which was in the year 2018, for example, every act of murder by terrorists in this country...
False. Okay, I don't even care right now to skim through all of your videos because, well, you reeled back. First off, the original claim was all acts of terror, not just murders, all acts of terror are right-wing. And now all of a sudden it's all murders were right-wing. And then y'all reeled it back, most murders were right-wing. And now y'all are back to all murders are right-wing. Okay? Come on. Y'all changing it up because it's fucking false. You can't keep your story straight because it's false. And again, I won't trust any of those that, like, especially the southern part of your law center, whenever they add obviously not right-wing extremism into the right-wing extremism slot. And I don't trust them because they don't include obvious left-wing extremism in the left-wing extremism slot. They don't. They exclude certain left-wing extremisms, but they include non-extremism as right-wing extremism when it isn't. And I also would like to see them separate Muslim extremists from white nationalists. I would like to see that because, well, I'm pretty fucking sure y'all clump the Muslim extremists into right wing, even though the right wing condemns Muslim and they're the ones anti-Muslim apparently. So it's kind of counterproductive. It's just to help your whole point. So just, until then, I don't trust any of that stuff because, well, it's propaganda. Fucking hell, Southern Poverty Law Center has Ben Shapiro as a hate person, as the Daily Wire is a hate group. So yeah, I don't trust people that have Ben Shapiro as part of a hate group.
Was done by a right winger. If every time we said Trump didn't say they were Christians, they were Christian murderers.
Except y'all did. The New Zealand shooting. Y'all were all about he's a Christian, even though he wasn't. He was asked if he was a Christian, he said he didn't know, but y'all kept emphasizing he was a Christian. And then y'all were upset that he didn't say terrorist every 2 seconds. Y'all said, right wing aren't calling this out for terrorism. Practically every video I saw made by a right wing was calling this out as terrorism, and that's completely horrible. It was a horrible act. Come on. You say you don't, but you do. I just don't have the time or the money or whatever. I don't have the time to skim through your videos. Come on now. The people who still watch your shit and trust you 100%, they're honestly idiots. Even people have to be skeptic of at least some of the shit you say.
Christian terrorists. You have to say they're Christian terrorists, right? Why do you have... No, that would be weird. That would be...
You don't have to do that because everyone does call them Christian terrorists. I don't think there... Can you name one point where there was a Christian terrorist and they didn't say they were Christian terrorists? Can you?
Identity politics. But...
Y'all do identity politics. That's literally all they do.
There's never that request. Whenever it's a Muslim, you must say...
There's never that request because y'all explicitly say it, and then y'all get upset if they don't say terrorism every 2 seconds, even though they already said it's terrorism. And Muslim attacker. No, they're not saying you must say it's a Muslim attacker. They're upset and they're pointing out the clear hypocrisy, the clear difference on how you treat Christians and Muslims. There's a clear difference, yet you don't want to address it. You just make up a fake narrative because this fake narrative you can counter. You can't counter the actual argument.
It's Islamic radical extremism, and you must say that the victims are Christian. Look, just cover the facts and cover the news. In this case...
Cover the facts and cover the news? Okay, yeah. We'll cover the facts and cover the news. The facts are, you're biased, and you treat Christians and Muslims different. Okay? The facts in the news, in this case, Muslim extremists, Christian victims. Those are the facts. What's wrong with saying that?
It was Islamic extremists, and Christians were the victims. But that's what Hillary Clinton and Obama said. You don't have to
No, they didn't. They didn't mention Muslim at all, and they didn't talk about Christians at all. They said Easter worshippers, and they treated it completely different. That's the fucking problem, Jank. They didn't mention Muslim attackers at all. In any of the tweets you made, they didn't mention Muslim attackers. None. So you're fucking lying right here.
Manufacture things. And the reason why they manufacture outrage is because
they don't. You're the same kind of manufactured outrage you do on literally everything. Come on. You manufacture outrage all the time. Trying to think of an example off the top of my head. Like, oh yeah. And when Trump called MS-13 animals. You're angry that he said MS-13 are animals? No, you're acting like he said all Mexicans are animals. No, he was calling MS-13 animals. Yet you were manufacturing outrage. You manufacture outrage by the child separation policies. That's manufactured outrage, especially considering how you weren't even remotely caring about them whenever it was happening under Obama. Come on now. Again, projection. And again, it's more... If you disagree with me, if it's an outrage against my belief, well then, it's manufactured. If I'm outraged, it's 100% accurate. Come on.
It plays well, and it allows for them to play identity politics and rile up their base.
Identity politics is literally all you do here at TYT. Okay? Okay, and if Hassan was here, he would be one of the best. Oh, Hassan and Francis. Those two are the leaders in identity politics at TYT. They are the fucking leaders. The entire left-wing, the entire TYT argument has been identity politics from the start. Come on.
Based on the culture wars, and that's why they do it. On the go, don't worry.
Projected at the end. Y'all do identity politics. Y'all do the culture wars. This isn't about identity politics. This is showing your clear bias differences between Muslims and Christians. You never addressed the point in this entire 9-minute video. You made up a point and countered the made up point. So, fuck off, okay? You don't really fucking care about Christians. You don't.